Oh, hello. I'm Dr. Evans in the Department of Educational Leadership. You know, the academic world can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. So welcome to Ask an Academic. For today's topic, we're going to be addressing attending academic conferences. So whether it's your first time or your third time, we're going to talk to two faculty members and hear their insights about what you need to do to prepare. So we're joined today by two faculty members, Mahogany Shah and Kate Rumanier, who are going to talk to us about attending conferences. So I was wondering if we could start with Mahogany. If you could tell us what are the conferences that are most important to you professionally?
Conferences that are most important to me. The first one is a research conference that I attend in the fall. It's the Association for the Study of Higher Education, otherwise known as ASH. And the second is a more practitioner-based conference that I attend in the spring, which is ACPA College Students International.
Kate?
And I attend the History of Education Conference, the American version every fall, and then the international version in the summer. And then I also sometimes attend the Southern History of Education Conference. The acronym is SHOES, which is a lot of fun. And I also go to AERA. Do you go to AERA?
I have gone to AERA for almost the past 6 years, but I am taking a hiatus this year, and that might be indefinite. So
it's a huge conference,
very
15,000 people. But it's in Chicago this spring, so we want to go.
Well, I was wondering if the two of you would be willing to share some advice. So for some of our master's level and doctoral level students who might be thinking about going to a professional conference like these for the first time, what advice would you give an incoming student?
Mm-hmm. So what I would say, we're talking about a first-time attendee. Mm-hmm. I think the most important thing for first-time attendees is really just to get a feel of the conference scene, to get an understanding of how the conference operates. So really attempt to attend different types of sessions. When you go to different conferences, there are going to be some that are workshops, some that are more like research, poster sessions, paper sessions and poster sessions, roundtables. I would say attend a variety of different session types to get an understanding of kind of how the conference works and meet as many people as possible when you go to those sessions.
I echo that. Going to conferences is about getting new information, but it's also about meeting new people. So you meet people who you're sitting next to in the session, you hang out over coffee afterwards. Oftentimes there's a graduate student coalition that goes together for dinner. Maybe they'll meet at the hotel lobby that on an evening and they all go out to dinner together. And you should do that. And you'll go saying, but I don't know anybody. And that's the whole point, is that you go to meet people. And that's to learn that being an academic can be fun and that you can share ideas and learn new things from people. That, to me, is what conferences are all about.
Agreed.
Well, that sounds great. But what's the etiquette if you've been learning about somebody in class and you've been reading their papers? Is it really okay to go up to one of these luminaries in the field and speak to them?
Yes, but what I would not recommend is what one of my doctoral classmates does. She keeps signatures of every scholar inside of her textbooks, and she would take them to conferences and approach someone and say, I've read your book, will you please sign the front inside cover? That's strange. Don't do that. But it is perfectly okay to go up, to introduce yourself, even to attempt to engage someone in conversation around their work, the pieces that you've been thinking about or that you may be wanting to use in your own work, and to just begin to establish that connection.
Yes, I agree. I also think that you need to have an elevator talk, what we call an elevator talk, which maybe you're practicing at various ways, which is to say, when you go up to the luminary and say, I love your book, it was really great. If the person is a nice person, he or she will say, that's great. What are you working on? And then you have to say in 2 sentences, maybe 3, what you're working on to someone who you've never met before. So that's another great experience about graduate school, and then about conferences, and then maybe explain what you're working on and then somehow connect it to the person who you're talking to so you can have sort of a conversation about it. That's very useful and friendly and appropriate in all ways. Yeah.
And if you're looking for a good way to test out that elevator's pitch and see if people understand it, try it on your family members, the ones who don't really understand what it is that you're studying. Call your mom or your aunt or your cousin or your brother or sister or whomever and just give it to them. This is what I'm doing in school right now, and see how they react.
Right.
So I know some students who are going for the first time, some students have questions about how should they dress, how should they be prepared to go to the conference, like what do they need to bring. How about along those lines? What would be your suggestions to students?
You want to start?
I dress informally, but nicely. I think in education we don't necessarily dress up. Different sort of fields have different norms, and I think in education we dress sort of the way we are now, sort of professionally but relaxed. I'm still worried about going to a session where people are on their laptop or their iPhone in the middle of a session. I would warn people against doing that because that can seem rude and distracting. But certainly bring a notebook if you want to write down notes. That's always a good idea.
And I also think it's very important to be comfortable. So you're not going to be able to present your best self. You're not going to be able to walk up to someone and say, I'm interested in your research, if you are not at your most comfortable. So whatever you decide to wear, make sure that you're comfortable. But I agree that it's important to keep it professional. It's not necessary to be extremely dressed up, though.
And one final question for both of you. I'm going to put you on the spot. If you can think back to your graduate student days, what is your favorite conference memory?
Ooh. Gosh, I have to think about this.
I'll tell you mine. It jumped right up to me. The first conference I went to and presented at was the Canadian History of Education Conference, and the person who presented ahead of me was from Quebec, and she spoke in French. And apparently she gave a very entertaining talk because everybody was laughing and laughing. And I was sitting right next to her and I had no idea what she was saying. So I felt really awkward. But, in the end it worked out. I ended up becoming friends with her and I gave my paper and all was well.
And so I think my favorite conference memory, I'm going to probably cheat a little bit because it was kind of about everything else that happened at the conference, more so than, like a conference presentation or whatnot. I actually defended my dissertation proposal from Toronto via Skype while my dissertation chair was back in Indiana, and some of my other committee members were with me in Toronto. And so I did a paper presentation in the morning, and then we went to someone's hotel room, and literally, I sat on the end of the bed, and the two of them pulled in, chairs, and my dissertation chair was at her house, and we had a defense meeting, and then I went and gave another paper presentation. And I was really frazzled at the morning paper presentation because all I could think about was my proposal defense that was coming up, and then the afternoon one was just released, it's done. They said it was good. I passed that, and now I can go and enjoy the rest of this.
Holy.
Wow. Well, great.
I do have one more thing to say,
Absolutely.
which is about reading versus notes. I tend to read my papers because I'm always terrified, even now, terrified about presenting. And so when I read, I know it's right there. On the other hand, I've learned how to read the way one reads when one's reading a story, maybe to a child. So you're I read it with a lot of expression. But I'm too scared to go up with notes because I don't think I'll keep track of myself.
And so I think that is discipline specific. I have been to some history conferences, and I actually read a paper at a history conference, and that is my only experience with reading a paper. We tend to do presentations more so than reading, and that's what's expected. So I would say also when you go to that first conference and you're attending different sessions, pay a lot of attention to the different ways in which people are presenting, to the different ways in which people are interacting, so that you can kind of learn the norms of your field.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for joining us and sharing some of your experiences about conferences.
All righty. Bye.
So there you have it. Thank you to Dr. Shaw and to Dr. Rumenier for speaking with us. To recap, when you go to an academic conference, make sure that you take time to explore the conference, learn about all the different possibilities. Make sure you look at it as an opportunity to network. Be prepared to talk about your own work, discuss what you're interested in. Be yourself. Be respectful, and take the time to learn the conference norms. That's what's going to make you feel most comfortable. Overall, attending an academic conference can be a lot of fun. It can be really invigorating for your academic career, and we really hope you'll take advantage of it.